Let's get started with our pâte à choux. Now, what is pâte à choux? Pâte à choux is a classic French pastry known for its versatility and uniqueness. Versatile because we can use it in both sweet or savory dishes. Unique because we actually cook it first before we bake it. We do this so it provides a more light and airy texture while remaining crispy on the outside. It's made with simple ingredients. We have our flour, butter, salt, water, eggs, and me personally, I add in milk. It's not necessary, but the sugars and protein within the milk help bring out a richness in the dough. It also helps with browning, so when we bake it, we get this deep rustic brown color that I am in love with. And the fat content in the milk helps with moisture. Now, if I was making eclairs, I wouldn't use milk, I would only use water because I would want a more drier interior due to the filling of the eclairs. Flour choice, I'm using bread flour. It has a higher protein content. It's going to provide a stronger dough. So when we bake this, we don't use baking soda or baking powder. We rely solely on the steam. So as it bakes, the steam gets trapped inside of the pastry and it puffs up. Therefore, having a stronger dough is going to provide a better rise. After we pull it out, we can fill it with anything. We're left with a hollow shell. So ganaches, buttercreams, pastry creams, mousselines. I mean, literally, the creativity is up to you. I have a lemon limoncello where I add a lemon curd and reduced limoncello to the pastry cream, and I paired it with a raspberry jam. I also have a pistachio mousseline paired with an orange marmalade, and a whole lot of other flavor combinations that I cannot wait to share with you at a later date. But for now, let's get started on this pâte à choux. All right, so to our sauce pot, we're gonna add in our water, our milk, and our butter. We're just gonna allow that to come together. I'm gonna go ahead and add in our salt. I like to add this to the milk itself rather than the flour to provide even distribution. So I'm starting to see a little foam of bubbles appear on the edge of the pot. And I now know that we are about ready to add in our flour. I'm just kind of making sure that all the butter has been melted. What I should have done, and what I usually do, is melt the butter first and then I add in the milk and water. It just helps. It's a little bit faster because the butter is already melted and everything. It's more efficient, but either one works. Okay, and now I'm gonna add in, this is important, all the flour at once. And we're gonna work that in. And after I see that all of the flour has been absorbed by the milk and everything, I start my timer. I have my timer set for 5 minutes. And now what we're doing is we're cooking the dough. We're taking out all of this moisture. And later on, we're going to rehydrate the dough with those eggs. What you're looking for is like a mashed potato type look, starchy. I do this all on a timer because like the drier you get, the more water that evaporates and milk that evaporates, the drier it becomes and the more eggs it will hold. So it all depends on on this step right here. So like if I were to stop it right now and just kind of go and add it to my mixing bowl, it wouldn't hold as much eggs. But see all that steam that's coming out? That's because we're cooking it, and yeah. Now I'm just jumbling, so don't mind me thinking out loud. Pastry cream, the Paris press, you get a very good arm workout, trust me. You won't regret or feel bad about eating them because of all of the working out you've done. At least I don't. Kind of see inside. This is what it looks like. It has like a little, it's starting to get a film on the bottom. That's what I'm looking for. 40 seconds. Woo! Let's turn this off. Push that back. And now we're going to add this to our mixing bowl. And let this mix. Now we're letting the dough cool off before we start to add in our eggs. See all that steam that is coming up? That's what I'm looking for. When the steam starts to let up, I'll know it's safe to start adding our eggs. The reason why we're doing this is if I start adding in the eggs now, that hot dough will start to cook the eggs, and we don't want that. This is the crucial part. Too much eggs, the dough won't be stable. It won't hold its shape. Too little eggs, the dough won't rise appropriately. You won't get enough steam in the egg. You won't get enough steam when you bake it, and it will have a poor rise. And so it's all about the perfect amount, and I'll show you all the tricks on how to tell. I can see it starting to let up a little. Steam has pretty much gone away. I think it's safe to start adding in our eggs. We're gonna do it one at a time. Let it mix. Give it time to absorb inside the dough before you add in your next one. All right, I think it's safe to add in another egg. Alright, we continue adding in our eggs one at a time. And what we're looking for is a velvety, smooth, feeling. Batter is a better word. gonna have a glossy, shiny finish to it. It's going to slowly drip off, and you're gonna be left with what is a little V. And I'll show you what that is. So right now, it's still too choppy. So one thing is, I like to do a short one. So see how it almost looks like it's ready. We're close, but I've done this before where I'm like, oh, it's great. Here's that V, but it's not flowy enough. It's supposed to flow like lava. And so if I were to stop right now, I know that it wouldn't. There's not enough eggs, and I wouldn't get the appropriate rise. And so I'm going to keep going. It takes patience. That's better. So much more flowy. Way a little bit more glossier. Okay, we are done. So I ended up using all of my eggs. Sometimes we don't need them all, but again, it depends on how much the dough dried out when we're cooking it. What if I used more milk than water? Like, there's so many variables that are in play. That's why it's just good to know the markers and to just check, double check. Because otherwise, if it's too little eggs, you won't get the right rise. If it's too less eggs, it won't puff up right. If it's too much eggs, it won't be stable, or just flat. And so I rather double, triple check myself every time. But there are ways to fix it. Say I added too much eggs and it just kept running and dripping and dripping. I would have to start the process over, weigh out the ingredients, the flour, the milk, the water, the butter, and cook it over the stove again, and then add that to this. And then it would help it out. What you don't do is add flour straight to it to thicken it up, because again, the flour has to be cooked first before we get to this step. Speaking from experience, I'm gonna put everything back in this bowl. I'm gonna cover it up with plastic wrap. Now that my pâte à choux has been properly wrapped, meaning the plastic wrap is touching the surface of it to prevent a skin from forming, I dated and labeled it. I'm going to store it in the refrigerator overnight. That's gonna help develop the flavor. And then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll pipe those classic Paris Brest rings, and we're gonna garnish them with sliced almonds and crushed fruity pebbles. And then we will wrap those back up, because I don't bake them until the day of brunch, which is Sunday. So I'll get here Sunday at 6 a.m., pop them in the oven, bake them fresh, and then we'll fill them and sell them.